How's it going, guys? This is Al. It's Friday, week 2, NFL. I'm working on your DraftKings lineups with you. I'm sitting here on Twitch, talking to my chat, and we're going to go over all their questions to see what they need to know, and I'll give you the best answers that I have, the best of my ability to answer the questions, what I would do with those sorts of plays. I'm not here to give you a lineup. I'm here to answer your questions, to teach you how to fish and help you make better lineups so that you can be profitable this week on DraftKings and moving forward as well. So why don't we get right to it? Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. Drop a comment in the section down below. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Notifications. You all know the drill. Let's get to the questions. Connor and AB together for cash, or would you go Coleman and AB? I'd go either one. I think Connor is still underpriced for the amount of volume that he's going to get, and especially considering, you know, how ridiculous his numbers are going to look in terms of volume. We've gone over this a few times, talking about like how much volume this guy is going to get, even though he's not Le'Veon Bell. Nobody's Le'Veon Bell, but you take Le'Veon Bell off the Steelers, and D'Angelo Williams became a primetime back in terms of volume, and there's no difference when it comes to James Conner. He's getting the same sort of volume. You give a running back 25 touches behind a really good offensive line with great wide receivers that they can't stack the box, and an all-pro quarterback who's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame as well, you're going to get great offensive numbers. So he's a player who probably should be 7,900 to 8,200 on DraftKings, and he's 6,700, so you're playing him. Gazelle91, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub, another new member of the VIP. Thank you for being here, brother. Is it a two tight end sort of week? I've noticed that two tight ends are coming up a lot in optimals right now. I was working on lineups all morning. If I'm shooting for the moon, I'm probably not going with two tight ends. I think you can go two tight ends in cash, but if I'm trying to shoot the moon in tournaments, I'm probably not doing that. You can definitely get 8+ targets out of two tight ends. Just like Camel Cross said, if you want to go with like Doyle and Kittle, you can jam in those two guys for 7,800 in salary total. I prefer 3 running backs for cash personally, and there's plenty of them out there, especially with the injury news that was rolling out today. Favorite of the 3K, 4K tight ends. I labeled every one of those in Best Buys this week. Just go read that. I talked about 3 guys in that range and 1 guy that was cheaper as well. Pettis cash viable if Goodwin misses. Yes, definitely. He's too cheap if Goodwin's gone. We don't know that yet. We're still in a holding pattern with Pettis. Kittle is definitely cash game viable with Goodwin available. Without Goodwin available, that's going to boost Pettis's snap count. It could also boost, you know, the where is it? Hold on. Let's take a look. Let me go to that game real quick. First of all, San Francisco's got a really high total this week, right? So if Goodwin's out, all of a sudden Garcon becomes... he could be washed. He could be older. He's still going to get a good amount of run, and he's going to get a lot of snaps, and he's going to get a bit of an uptick in terms of his target percentage. Pettis is the next guy, in my opinion, over Trent Taylor, right? Taylor got 6 targets last week. Pettis got 5 targets last week. I think Pettis is going to be the guy that gets a little bit more run, and at 4K, I like the possibility here, not because he scored a touchdown. You guys know that I don't really look at touchdowns when I'm trying to project, right? I know that players obviously have a percentage chance of scoring a touchdown, and it factors into a projection. But when I'm looking at floor, I look at volume alone. And on 5 targets last week with Goodwin there most of the time, he had 61 yards and 2 catches. That's 8.1 DraftKings points for 4K. Yeah, we want 12, but if he misses, that's not killing you, right? If he gets 8 again, that's not killing you. Assuming that he's going to get 6, 7, 8 targets this week, if Goodwin is out, that holding pattern that we're still in, good possibility he catches 3, 4 balls on the high end, possibly 5. Yes, he did have a long 40-yard catch last week. If he ends up with 5 catches for 65 yards, he's right at his value, and that's why you're hearing so much buzz on Pettis right now. Double tight end cash week, it's viable. I don't think it's necessary, but it's definitely viable. Alan Phillips donated 500 bits. I don't know how I missed that. I didn't hear the notification, but thank you, Alan. Appreciate that. Getting the #1 bit donation spot on the week, tied with Eggs Any Style as well. Panthers, do you scare you any with Coleman? I mean, Coleman's not somebody who strikes fear into my heart. Like, it's like, oh God, they're going to play their backup. I should never play the defense. No, like, I'm not going to play them together because I'm kind of spitting into the wind if I do that. If you liked Panthers D before when they had Freeman there, Coleman is not as efficient a runner as Freeman, so therefore, you know, he's a better runner, Freeman is. So if you liked them before, you have to like them the same now. The reason we like Coleman with Freeman being out is because he's super cheap and going to get 20 touches, you know, in a game we expect the Falcons to score a good amount of points. Is Mike Williams cash viable? Maybe. I have not decided yet. I'm kind of going back and forth on him. I definitely think he's a good tournament play. The reason that he's cash game viable, or people are asking that question this week, is because of Benjamin, who is now questionable. Or is he definitely out, or is he just questionable now? Chat, help me out. Because I know that there's an injury possibility with him, but I don't remember if he's completely determined that he is gone for this week. Where is that team? There. So you look at San Diego's wide receivers, or San Diego. I do this all the time. You can't be 45 years old and they play in San Diego your whole life, then they move to your home city and you just call them Los Angeles. Okay, yeah, he didn't practice today, but he hasn't been determined out, right? So Travis Benjamin, 5 targets last week, played about 55% of the snaps, right? For Los Angeles. And we'll know by inactives time on Sunday morning, about an hour before I go live with the Anti-Tinkercast on Sunday morning, right here on twitch.tv/al_smizzle. We'll know if he's out. If he's out, Terrell Williams is going to still play his number of snaps that he played last week. Keenan Allen unaffected. He's going to get the lion's share of the targets. He's also going to get the snaps that he gets. But Mike Williams kind of bumps up a little bit more in terms of his market share of snaps and his market share of targets, because those targets have to be filled by somebody. They're not going to be filled by any one person. But if you bump him 2-3% in terms of his market share of targets, you bump Terrell 2 or 3% in terms of his market share of targets, and you bump Keenan Allen in terms of his. The only question is, can the can the Bills keep this game competitive? If they do, yeah, that should have been allowed. If they do, then obviously the passing game for the Chargers is way more palatable. But if they blow this team out, it's going to be a lot of runs and a lot of slowing the ball down in the second half. Mike Williams at 3,700 on a week that we're starved for value that's not tight ends under 4,000. I think a lot of people want to roster Mike Williams. I think a lot of people are going to want to roster Courtland Sutton, because rostering either one of those guys opens up a lot for you. But I don't know. You know, at this point, I think he's nice. I think he's tournament viable, and I don't know whether or not he's cash game viable. It's something that we're going to have to wait and see if Benjamin is out on Sunday morning with the inactives. Why was a comment modded? It was a misclick, man. Goodwin not practicing again today. All aboard Pettis. Again, when players don't practice on Friday, it typically means that they're not going to play on the weekend. So that's why everybody's getting all excited and anxious about Pettis. It's why we're getting all excited about Tevin Coleman. It's why we're getting all excited about Mike Williams. But again, I'm just in a holding pattern. We know what to do, right? So we talk about this in NBA DFS a lot, right? You set up your if-then statements. So have your if-then statements available for every player that did not practice today. Know what you're going to pivot to, if and when, and know why, right? Figure out what type of snaps that guy would play if that player was there. And then if he's out, what type of snaps is that new player going to take on? What type of target percentage is that new player going to take on? Louis Dog 012, thank you for the Twitch Prime. AKK, thank you for the Twitch Prime. And GWeb28 getting involved with a tier 1 sub. Thank you guys. Appreciate the support on the channel. Antonio Brown play or Gurley and Kamara? I think all three are fine. You can take 2 of them if you want. The problem is with the value that's opened up at running back, obviously a lot of people are going to play Connor. A lot of people are going to want that value because of how tight it is with Tevin Coleman. That only leaves one roster spot at a running back if you want to play one in flex. So I think people are going to take Antonio Brown, those 2 running backs, and one of Kamara or Gurley. I prefer Gurley by just a tick. He's a little bit cheaper and projects to get more volume. Obviously, Kamara is great in a fantastic situation. I'm going to have my fair share of him in tournaments as well. Right now, on Friday, I prefer that one. Jalen Richard on FD, 4,600 is okay in cash. Not to me because of how much other value there is at running back. You know, like at that point, it becomes an opportunity cost thing. You know, if you're playing him, you're not playing, you know, one of the other guys. And there's like 5 guys that you can play at running back this week and be totally okay with that. Can you touch on your strategy in single entry tournaments? Use your cash game lineup and aim just to cash. I'm always trying to win. Based on the way that I build a cash game lineup, I always seem to have 1 or 2 spots like maybe a 2v2 that's off of most people's optimals, which gives me a little bit of a differentiation in my cash game lineups, the way I build them. And I don't do that intentionally. I'm not trying to be different in cash games. I'm never trying to be the smartest guy in the room and say, look, I played this guy and nobody had him, and so therefore I'm better than you at this game. No, that was the highest scoring lineup that I thought was there. It was the best chance I could get. Like, you guys have seen me do it last year with JJ Nelson, Terrell Williams, playing that 3K to 4K wide receiver that nobody else seems to trust in cash, but I think I can get 6-7 targets out of that kid. And if I can, then it gives me a leg up because I get to play one more stud in my lineup. So that's kind of how I gravitate towards stars and scrubs in cash. So my single lineup tends to go into single lineup tournaments. If not, you've heard my strategy about building your 3 lineups: a cash lineup, a leagues lineup, and a tournament lineup. Go with the league or the tournament lineup for single entry tournaments and give yourself a chance to win all the money, because that's always plan A. Connor and AB in cash with no Big Ben? What do you mean no Big Ben? Oh, without playing him in your lineup. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm not concerned with, oh, I'm playing this player, so I have to match him up with a quarterback because I have to have that stack. No, I don't care. I want the most points per dollar that I can get, especially in cash. So if there's a better points per dollar quarterback, and that running back is great in terms of points per dollar, and that wide receiver is great in terms of points per dollar, or just raw total, then yeah, that's the guy I'm going to go with, and I don't need to pair them up with a quarterback because I played them. Tyrod 5.9, the cheapest QB you're considering in cash? No, I mean, you could play Matt Ryan in cash. There's other guys as well. I think that Garoppolo at 6K, I know it's not cheaper than 5.9. I think the team total that the 49ers have is extremely eye-opening, but at the same token, so is the 19 team total, implied team total, that Tyrod Taylor has with the Cleveland Browns. That kind of scares me a little bit in terms of cash. How many touchdowns are you expecting out of the Cleveland Browns this week? Mahomes viable for cash this week? Yes. 3 Niners in cash too much? Yes. I think 2 is good. But again, I don't really count the quarterback all that much. Is Hunt a foolish play in GPP? No, in GPP is not. In cash, I think he's not correct. Keenum or Ty God for cash? Keenum. Would I say Stars and Scrubs seems to be a better cash build typically, and even... Okay, Stars and Scrubs works for me. You know, I've been profitable over the 6 years that I've playing. That's just what my brain tends to gravitate towards. I always want to get that one more high volume guy. It's just, I'm like, well, if I take this mid-range guy down, I can turn this mid-range guy into an all-star. Like, when I get my whole line, I'm like, okay, this is the best line. I'm like, yeah, but if I do this, I can get this one more guy in there. And that's kind of like where Team Jam 'em In came from. It's like, well, Al, you're always like, it was 2016 is when this all started, story time with Al, right? When the running backs were just way too cheap on DraftKings for like the first 2.5 months of the football season till like week 10. And every week I would have like 190 to 210 points in my cash game lineup because I was just throwing in the 3 highest volume running backs in my lineup, and I would always try to get there. And Adam was like, why, you know, how come we're not doing that? Like, why aren't we just jamming these guys in there? I was like, because, I don't know. Why not? Like, I was taking the 75, I want 75 touches out of my running backs if possible, and you can get it every week. You can get that this week, right? You can theoretically jam, like, Melvin Gordon III, one of Alvin Kamara or Todd Gurley and James Conner, and boom, you're over 70 touches from your running backs right there. And then let everybody else figure out where they're going to get those touches from. But that's just how I do it. How do we feel about fading Conner and cash? I'm not doing that. Nope. I think that's overthinking. That's what I was talking about, trying to be clever and trying to be the smartest guy in the room. You know? And I'm not getting after you, mashed potatoes, at all. Like, don't take that, like, personally. I'm just saying that is trying to be too cute. Right? Because even if he doesn't, like, let's say that in the worst case scenario, James Conner on the first play of the game runs into the line, gets concussed, and fumbles. Okay, so he loses a point. He's -1 points for the day and does not play again. 75+% of people in cash are going to have that guy. So in terms of your head-to-heads, you're still going to win or have a chance to win the majority of your head-to-head games, because if you've got them, so does everybody else. Same with 50-50s. You just got to beat 25% of the field more. You know, like 25% of the field that didn't have them might win in that very unique situation. But the other 75% are still competing for 25% of the money. So you still have a chance to win. I take my sub back. Sounds like I'm down on Tyrod. You don't understand why? I mean, I'm not down on him. I still like him. He's a guy that I want to play all the time. I'm just a little more wary and side-eyed because of the team total there. He always has a higher floor because of his ability to run. Just don't expect 75 rushing yards from him like you got last week. Don't expect a rushing touchdown like you got last week. That's 13 fantasy points right there, right? He scored, what, 24? So he had 11 passing points. I think he's fine. You want 18 points out of him. Do you think he can get 18 points? If you do, I'm in. But I think that for 100 more, I can get Mahomes, 200 more I can get Mahomes, 100 more I can get Garoppolo, and both of them have team totals of 25 or above. And both have the ability to run, obviously Mahomes a little bit more. We saw him have a couple of designed rush attempts around the goal line last week. Garoppolo going to do it with his arm. If he does, they've had trouble getting in. I'm just saying there are other options in that price range that may have a higher ceiling and an equal floor. Njoku or Jonnu? Give me Njoku, but I do like Jonnu Smith. Doyle or Kittle, upside in GPP. Both. I think both have upside in GPP. I think they're both fine. Kittle's going to be more owned. So like if you're looking for GPP, I like Doyle better for GPP because less percentage will be on him versus Kittle. Kittle's the sexy pick this week. How much do you have to pay Sunday to get your Funches shares? 2,500 bits. On Sunday morning during the Anti-Tinkercast, there's the rule, guys. If you donate 2,500 bits during the Anti-Tinkercast, you can name a player. And you can do that as many times as you want. You can name 50 players if you want. And I'll tell you, honestly, what my percent is in the DraftKings Millie Maker on that player. What do I think the chalkiest stacks is going to be? Ben Brown, number 1. Like, easily. Thoughts on Washington Indy? Indy played a ton of snaps last week. They played more snaps in that game, more plays run in that game for Indy than they've run in 2 years. I like that they're playing up in pace. I think that bodes well for Washington, for their offense. Looks like a sneaky GPP game to stack with the point total slowly increasing over the week. Yep. I agree. Any takes on Gronk versus the Jags? I'm in a complete holding pattern with this game for a few reasons with New England and Jacksonville. And here's the reasons why. One, it's in the storm path, right? They're going to get some residue from this storm that looks like 20-mile-per-hour winds. Again, who knows? It's Friday. I'm not trying to predict the weather. That's not my job, and it's not what I do, and I especially don't do that on Friday, right? So on Sunday morning, it's just something you got to monitor. B, so that was A. B, Leonard Fournette probably not going to play this week. I don't like Yeldon a lot. I'm just not a huge fan, but if it's a sloppy game and they have to run it more, at least you're going to get volume. Burkhead, another guy who's hurt, concussed, officially limited practice participant on Thursday. We will see if he's cleared. We'll know more by the inactives on Sunday morning. If he's out, that to me really bumps James White. They just don't have any other healthy running backs. Hill's out for the year. Burkhead's concussed. Sony Michel may play, but he might not. They might have to rush him back. He was a limited practice participant. And again, with the rain and the wind and a really tough defense, I don't know who I like in that game. Jets, D, and Cash, probably not for me. Any sneaky shootouts? I mean, the shootouts are basically on the board. Everybody always wants, like, what's the game that's going to score 80 points that I don't know about yet? I mean, I don't know. I think that Washington and Indy is a game that's faster paced than people think is going to be. Can I clarify how that will work when someone donates to you? Do I PM the person? Do I say it on stream? No, I'll tell the stream. Basically, one person is going to take it for the team. If you donate 2,500 bits and say, whoever, just think of a player. If you say Tevin Coleman, give me your allocation on Tevin Coleman. I will look on my sheet and I will tell you exactly what percentage I have in the Millie Maker in my 150 lineups of that player. What's the Millie Maker winning lineup this week? Man, if I only knew. I lost my almanac. Biff gave it to me a little while ago and I can't find it. Sucks. How many home shares you got this week? Don't know yet. Pool our money. We got a bunch of high rollers in this chat that can shoot that 2,500 bits on out there. AB Pettis or Manny Juju, DK Cash. Give me AB Pettis, but that is contingent upon Goodwin being out. So we're assuming Goodwin is out for that to happen. Again, that But again, that's again my preference, right? I'm always going to skew towards stars and scrubs, especially if the scrub is getting volume of snaps and volume of targets. Everyone send me money and I'll donate, Kappa. Exactly. Lock button on the Vikings defense if Rodgers is out. 100%. I mean, I won't have 100% of them, but like, I said this on the Edge this week. I kind of think that he's going to be, I think if the Vikings defense, if Rodgers is out, is going to be the highest owned defense in the history of DraftKings because they're way too cheap. Helmus with a tier 1 sub for 13 months in a row. Thank you very much for the continued support. Is Godwin still cash game viable if Djax plays? Probably not as much, no. I mean, he's still going to play a good amount of snaps, but like if he's gone, he's going to see more targets. He's guaranteed to play even more snaps. Can you fit AB, Gurley, Connor, Coleman, and Cash? Yes, you can. I mean, look, let's. Okay, look. Here's what we were saying on the Edge. You can't fit, right? You can't fit him. Where'd he go? Connor and AB, right? That's the tough fit, right? That's what you can't fit. But if you're telling me take one of these guys out and turn it into, and yes, chat, I know that you can fit that, but it won't work. Okay, like you'd have like Josh Allen at quarterback, a 2K defense, a 2K tight end. Like you could theoretically have done that, but like it won't really be a good idea. You could pedal a bike with your hands too. Doesn't make it a good idea. So you can do this, and then like Texans, Vikings for 2,600. You got 4,300 to go. Like pick like a low 5K quarterback, Darnold, or let's go with Matt Ryan at 57. You got 3,900 left. So tight end, Jonnu Smith at 26, or let's pick a more realistic one if people don't like Jonnu Smith. So you got 4,300 to spend on your 2 wide receivers. Like you could realistically do that, and I think you're gonna see a lot of it. Well, you can find wide receivers. We talked about Pettis at 4,000. We talked about Mike Williams at 3,700. You've got 3,500 for Courtland Sutton, and then that bumps your average remaining salary up a little bit, and you get like Golladay at 4,800. Like you could definitely do that. I don't know if that's a cash game lineup for me. It's close, but you could certainly make something like that work. No high rollers here. Studfy is not a high roller. He only spends $5 at a time. Here before Josh Allen throws for 2 TDs and runs for another. That would suck. If he does, he's winning somebody $1 million. That's for damn sure. I do wonder what they're going to do and how they're going to run their offense. I kind of feel like they're going to run their offense like Chicago ran their offense last year, and like let Josh Allen throw like 15 times. I could be way wrong. They might let him throw 30. I think if he throws 30, he's going to throw 2 or 3 picks. Because just sometimes when he lets the ball go, he does not know where it's going. Gurley Golladay or AB Coleman, DK Cash. Ooh, I like Gurley Golladay. I like the upside of Gurley Golladay. Coleman's nice and good for the salary, but like, is the upside really there in that game? Is Gurley a lock for you in cash now with the extra value? Okay, like I was saying, here's the thing. I think Connor's a lock in cash. And now if you're going to play Coleman, that gives you one more guy. Yeah, I think you should play Gurley. I think you should play Gurley or Kamara, like one of. And I personally prefer Gurley as like a weighted coin flip, like 60-40 over Kamara. But like I just showed you can build a very okay lineup, with those 3 dudes and Brown. I think it's going to be the most popular cash build if nothing changed. He's going to get killed if they let him throw it 25 times. I agree. Assuming, I don't know if he's going to get physically killed. I think that he's going to get, he's going to make a lot of mistakes. What about MG3? Haven't heard anything about him. I wrote him up in Best Buys this week. Talked about him on the Edge. I think he gets 25 touches against a defense that's ill-equipped to stop him. But he was the guy that we were all talking about Monday through today. And now with Coleman, you should get 18 to 22 touches out of Coleman for 2K less in salary. Right? So, like, if you want the volume, albeit not in a fantasy-friendly environment, although there's a lot of data showing that West Coast teams going east to play 1 p.m. games don't fare as well as their fantasy expectation, whatever. We'll see if that albatross hangs around the Chargers' neck this week. But just that extra value going from 7,400 to 5,000 range with Coleman opens up a lot and allows you to get one other guy. Cup or Thomas and cash? I'm fine with both. I think I preferred Thomas a little bit to Cup, but I like Cup a lot. Hunt, Kelsey being overlooked, even Watkins. Okay, the first two I agree with you. Watkins, not so much. ASJ or Jonnu? Give me Jonnu. You think, again, weather is weighing on my mind there. And I think Jonnu gets more action. Like, look at what, again, not saying that Jonnu Smith is Delaney Walker at all. But look at what Delaney Walker did in this same spot against this team last year. You know? Give me Jonnu. Coleman, Gurley, Connor, ideal for cash. That seems to be the optimal line. I think that a lot of people are going to go that route. I really, really do. Either Coleman, Connor, and Gurley, or Coleman, Connor, and Kamara. I think that people are going to go that with those three. Those two combinations of three, in my opinion, will be the two most popular 3 running back lineups in cash games on DraftKings this weekend. Deep breath. CMC or MG3? While CMC is going to have catch equity, that offensive line is very decimated. It is. The entire left side's gone. MG3 might get 2 rushing touchdowns. Exactly. MG3 gets like the most red zone usage of any running back in the league right now because Le'Veon Bell's out. Jonnu's 4,200 on FD opens up a lot if you're playing over there. True. Melvin Gordon's Chargers correlation. You can do that. I'm on board. Anything changed for you on McCoy since doing the edge with Pete and Adam? Not really. I think he's going to be very under-owned and is a tournament flyer for me. Like less than 5% owned. And theoretically, like I went over this on the edge, right? Like you should be able to get, if you were coaching this team, you'd look at it and you say, we got this rookie quarterback who can't really throw. We got a defense coming across the country playing without their best defensive lineman who's an all-pro. Our wide receivers probably aren't going to be able to get open all that much against against the coverage on the outside because they're really good. So we've got to kind of give the ball to LeSean McCoy as many times as we can, bleed the clock as much as we can, and give him 20 to 25 touches to give ourselves any chance to win this game. And nobody's going to own him because they're the Bills and they're not good. Like, he could find his way to the end zone. He could bust a play. You know, I didn't like Saquon Barkley last week because he was playing against the Jaguars. I don't bang my face into brick walls. That's just dumb. But he still busted a 68-yard run off of a broken play where he ran to the line and nothing was there. He bounced it outside. Sean McCoy can do the same thing. Lowest price QB you're comfortable with in cash? 57 to 62 is that range. Seems to be the sweet spot this week. With Funchess, they're going to have to throw to somebody. Wait, what? Funchess less of a cash game with the O-line injury? No, not really. I don't think it affects Funchess. Because Cam's still going to make plays. And it's not like they're going to run the ball. They're just going to play out of shotgun. They're going to freeze safeties with RPO. They're going to hold linebackers with play action to McCaffrey inside. Papa Chisholm, thank you very much for the Twitch Prime sub. Favorite bargain receivers for cash less than 4,500? I've talked about them a few times already. I'm not saying that I'm not going to say them again. Like, I think Mohamed Sanu's in play. Like, we can look. Okay, Ryan Grant got a ton of targets last week. I'm not that into him, but like 9 targets is a lot. You know, playing with Andrew Luck and being the starter is a certain boost to him, and nobody ever wants to play him because he's Ryan Grant and he's not that great. Mohamed Sanu, we're all frustrated all the time with the amount of usage in and around the goal line that Julio Jones gets, but we expect big things out of Matt Ryan, but nobody's talking about Mohamed Sanu at 4,000. I think that he's a solid but not sexy pick at 4K. Pettis is another one at 4K that people are considering. 3,700 if we get news that Travis Benjamin is out. Mike Williams becomes somebody who is going to be very interesting from a snaps and target percentage point of view at 3,700. Another one that a couple people were talking up last week, Courtland Sutton at 3,500. Oakland, not good at defending the deep ball. This kid not going to get as much volume as those other guys, but has big-time ability, and maybe he breaks one. Everybody's going to be on Emmanuel Sanders, and everybody's going to be on DT to a lesser extent than Manny. So Courtland Sutton kind of comes in as a GPP play for me there. NBD Run, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub, and FF Monster. He's a monster. He's from Boston. Thank you very much for the new subs, guys. Gurley, Pettis, Jonnu, or MG3 and Nunwa Kittle for DK Cash. Give me the second one. MG3 and Nunwa and Kittle. says he's very optimistic that Benjamin will play. We'll see. Again, holding pattern. If he's like, you know, he thinks he'll play. He didn't practice today. This is why we have inactives. And it's an early game too, so you'll know before, an hour and a half before lock, we will know. Cheapest DST I'm comfortable with in cash, probably 2,600 range. Thanks for what you do. No problem, man. If Burkhead is out, what does the value on White outweigh the weather concerns? A little bit, just because of snaps. But his value is also tied to Sony Michel, right? Don't forget that. So, like, if Burkhead's out and Michel is out, then White at 4,500, regardless of weather, is going to get 100% of the snaps, and they're going to have to do something. Maybe he gets 12 runs and 8 targets, right? He'll get, like, CMC-type usage in that situation. Goodwin update. Highly unlikely to play. Again, holding pattern until Sunday. Good to know now in terms of, like, let's just, like, build lineups and our if-then statements. But we'll know everything on Sunday morning. Golladay and cash. I think it's a bit aggressive, but I know that people are going to go there. You know, people are going to look at what happened on Monday night, and they're going to, in my opinion, people are going to weight this a little bit heavily, right? Like Golden Tate, 15 targets. Marvin Jones Jr., 8 targets. Kenny Golladay, 12 targets. Don't forget, they lost this game by like 78 points. They were down the majority of the time. It's the same thing that happened to the Ravens last night. When I went on Discord at halftime, I said that Flacco's going to throw it 30 times in the second half, right? Target rates, routes run, all get blown up in blowout games like that. Now, the Lions are a team that will throw the ball a ton. We know that, 45, 48 times a game. So those targets have to go somewhere. They don't really have a tight end to soak up targets. The running backs will get a few of them. I think 12 is a little bit out of line to project this week. And people are like, well, he's going to get double-digit targets for 4,800. Easy, Romeo. Dial it back a little bit. Just, you know, bring it on back. Just a little bit. If you're projecting 12 targets for Kenny Golladay in week 2 because he had 12 targets or 10-plus targets in week 1, I think you're being a bit aggressive. 8 targets is in play. If you think you can reach value on 8 targets, then I'm fine with it. That's my stance. I can change that. You can always move forward from there. C Maximus, thank you for the 300 bits, man. Here's the thing. Think about it in terms of cooking with Golladay. If you over-project his targets, if you project him at 12 targets or 11 targets this week, it's like pouring in way too much salt into your food. Once you get that salt in there and you taste it, you're like, oh man, that's too salty. You can't get that salt out of there. If you put too little amount of salt, you can always add more later, right? You can salt to taste later. If you project him at 7, 8, 9 targets this week, and then he reaches value for you and you play him, and he gets 10, 11, 12 again, you know, you're going to be just fine. But if you project him for 12 and he gets 7, 8, 9, you're pretty effed. So, you know, under project, overperform. And don't under project on purpose. Just realize if he gets 12 targets a game, he's like one of the best receivers in the league. I don't think that he's going to get 12 targets a game on a wide receiver core that's as crowded as this one. And again, they were down by 1 million. Save the bits for Sunday, C Max. The chat is like scheming to get my allocations on Sunday. Al with the cooking tips. Yep, salt to taste, boys. My wife does this all the time when she makes salsa. Puts way too much jalapeno in the salsa, and I like it. Like, I like spicy food, but she's like, oh God, it's too spicy. I'm like, you do this every time. Put in like half a jalapeno instead of a full one. And if you need a little more, you can add a little bit more. But once you get that in there, what are you going to do? Add 7 more tomatoes? Doesn't work. Powerbait DFS with Twitch Prime for 2 months in a row. Thank you very much for the 2. Mahomes or Tyrod in cash? Right now, Mahomes. Chef Al. Would playing Pettis and Mike Williams be too thin in cash to fit AB and Gurley? It probably is, but again, if the news breaks 100% your way, I like it more. Would I rather have Golladay or Lockett? I'd rather have Golladay. Lockett has a much tougher matchup. Yes, he should see a volume increase with Baldwin out, but he's going to see a much tougher cornerback this week. Do I think Carolina will try to get DJ Moore involved in the offense this week or coming weeks with no Olsen? I think they have no choice but to. But I don't know how much I want to put on a rookie wide receiver in an offense with a quarterback that's not all that accurate. Like, there's a lot of moving parts there in Carolina. I'd rather lean on the two guys that we know. DJ Moore at 4K this week. Maybe a sprinkle in GPPs, but but as I've said, guys, look, the first 4 weeks of the season are the best weeks to be contrarian. If you think that you know what's going to happen there in Carolina, and you think DJ Moore is all of a sudden going to play more snaps and all of a sudden going to get more than 0 targets, he's going to get like 7 or 8, that's a different story. And it pays to be there first. Being the first to market or being the first guy on a player like that this early in the season is very beneficial to your bankroll if you're right. Nobody's talking about Cam. He can be a tourney-winning QB this week. That's the thing about Cam. He can be a tourney-winning QB every week. That's why I usually try to get at least 5% of my 150 on Cam. I don't always get there, but he's a player that can break a slate with one, rushing touchdown, 60 yards rushing, 2-3 touchdowns through the air, and 300 yards passing. There aren't that many guys that can do that in the NFL. D. Damron, thank you for the 100 bits. The showdown cash head-to-heads are the softest I've seen. A kicker in the captain spot. Not for me. Stud in the captain spot for me, Frostbite. Like, people... Okay, like last night's showdown slate, and I know that we're talking about Sunday, but like in terms of last night's cash games, there were 2 viable captains for me. AJ Green, who I preferred at captain, we talked about on the showdown video. And then after him, I was like, okay, if you go Mixon, I get it, because they're very similar in terms of their raw projected total last night. Nobody else was close. So having anybody else in your captain spot in terms of cash games was a mistake. And people are making all sorts of mistakes. I had cash games against dudes that didn't have AJ Green in their lineup. I had 2 dudes who didn't fill out a lineup. Just took one of my head-to-heads and just donated money. You could do that in this chat. One gave me 20 and one gave me 10. They didn't mean to. They just didn't export a lineup. McDonald or Clay? Probably McDonald. Is the probability higher now that they're down 3-0 linemen and the best wide receiver? I'm confused where that was coming from, Germ. Deion Lewis or Chris Thompson in play for cash this week? Nope, not for me. I think that would be a mistake. Sunday Showdown captain, OBJ, Zeke, or Barkley? Hey, guys. I put out a Sunday Night Football Showdown video right here on YouTube, so you can go check that out if you want. Just click on my channel and click that Sunday Night Football thumbnail. I just did it in a video before we typed this one. Maybe somebody in chat will let you know. I'm sure they will. You want some of those head-to-heads this week? Yeah, the free ones are great. Just book a W. The guy's got a bunch of zeros next to his no player, invalid roster. Corey Clement, not for me. In terms of Philly, like, I wonder, right? Jeffrey out. Running back, Sproles out. Ajayi should get the monster. He should get the lion's share of the work. They got a big offensive line versus defensive line advantage in this game. They should be able to do what they want. Tampa Bay's cornerbacks are very overmatched. As CD Card always says, Mike Wallace in a GPP. Not the way I like to roll. That's not a me play. Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. For me, it's all about Aguilar. Going to get a ton of targets, and I think he'll outdo that 33 yards that he received on 8 receptions because he's not playing against as tough a secondary as he was against Atlanta. I think that they can get after this Tampa Bay secondary way more than they could that week. Vikings, Texans, Redskins defense. Yes, yes, and yes. The first one, only if Rodgers is out, becomes my number 1 defense on the week. How can you have an invalid roster? Don't you have to make a roster to play? No, you can reserve the game. You can reserve a game. Like, you can enter a contest without entering a lineup. You just click reserve and it gives you a lineup in that game. So like, they took my head-to-head, they hit reserve and wanted to make sure they got one of my games, and then nothing. Or they got auto-matched with me. They put head-to-heads on the board and they didn't fill lineups in them later. They never exported a lineup to that thing. So it can happen. Invalids can definitely happen. They've always been a part of DFS forever. Any GB receivers in GPP no. If Rodgers is there, I like a receiver or 2. But without him, I don't like anybody. Assuming that Rodgers plays for a second. Probably not going to have Devontae at 68, but I like Cobb at 46, and I really like Geronimo Allison at 38. I don't think he gets 8 targets. But for 3,800, I don't need him to get 8 targets. If he gets 6 targets, but they're high-quality targets because they're coming from Aaron Rodgers, considering that Rhodes is going to be on the outside locked up on DeVonta, and they've got a really good defense, the guys that you want to look for are the ancillary guys who are going to get a bump in their target percent. And if Rodgers is there, Geronimo Allison is that guy for me at 3,800. But right now, Rodgers is up in the air. We don't know. He's in full rehab on Friday based on the report from the beat writers during this today on Twitter. Not really thrilled in playing any Green Bay receivers if Rodgers is out. If he's there, I'll consider Allison. I'll consider Cobb. If he's out, I will be considering an awful lot of the Vikings defense. Cobb cash viable. Not for me. A can opener just subscribed. Thank you for the new sub. Juju Landry, Aguilar on like all 3. Like you want all 3 of those guys? I'm okay with it, but I think you can do better. A Wrinkle, maybe that's their way of donating to your channel, giving me invalid head-to-heads. I'll take them. You want to send over some invalid head-to-heads? I'll always accept that sort of action. Cup and cash, I think he's cash game viable. I do. I prefer Thomas to him at 5,600 on Denver. DFJ, a good look against the Rams D. Give up a lot to Lynch and Richard. He's going to be really low owned. Nobody's going to have him. Coming off of a horrible week. My issue is, like, theoretically, if everything was fine, if Arians was still there, I would say 100%, right? Like, you take him in weeks when everybody else is fading him. But, like, based on the route tree that he ran last week and all the routes that they had him running, like, I am not thrilled about playing David Johnson right now. And coming from the guy who just mashed David Johnson into every lineup he could for the last 2 years, like, that says a lot, right? I wanted David Johnson every week, and I wanted to overweight the field every week, and, like, I can't put a stamp on him right now. Wide receivers around 5,200 on DK. Pull it up. So I can start a little bit over. Robbie Anderson, no. Cooper Kupp at 55, yes. Anderson, maybe. Not like a yes, but like he's like, eh. Chris Hogan, definitely no. Fuller, if he's healthy, I'll take a GPP stab. Corey Davis, again, I didn't see if he practiced today yet. I haven't seen anything on him today. Dealing with a hamstring, should get a bunch of targets against Houston. I like him a lot. Pierre Garçon, if Goodwin is out, I think it's a bump in targets. JG Nelson, no. Crowder, no. Jackson could be out. Keelan Cole, no. Golladay at 4,800, yes. Devin Funchess 4,700 and Nunwa at 4,700, yes.
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
I notice. How's it going, Powerbait? Weird to say, but Julio and Ryan is a contrarian play. No, I think they're going to be very, very popular. I think Ryan's going to be popular, and therefore people are going to play Julio. But, like, people look for reasons not to play Julio Jones. You know? Like, well, he scored 3 touchdowns last year. Okay. You know? But he also had 19 targets in week 1. Like, are you seriously looking for reasons to not play a guy who got 19 targets? You know? Had like 100, so he had 31 points with no touchdowns. You know he has 2 Mount St. Julio eruptions a year. He's torn up Carolina in the past. I'm just saying, don't write him off. That's all. Make sure you got some in tournaments, even if you're not playing him in cash. Anunwar, or I assume that's Golladay in cash. That's a tough question. It depends on the health of all the Jets receivers. If the same guys are out this week that were out last week, I prefer Anunwa, but he doesn't have the ceiling of somebody like Golladay. Golladay definitely has a higher ceiling than Anunwa does. Anunwa probably has as good a floor, maybe a little better floor. I think I prefer Golladay just for the ceiling. Melvin Gordon or James Conner or both? Yes. James Conner is the better play. Melvin Gordon is also in play for cash. If you want to fit both of them in, I'm not going to tell you no. Matt Ryan is cheap this week. Matt Ryan is priced about where he needs to be. Aside from, if you take out 2015, Matt Ryan is not a ceiling quarterback. He never gets 30 points. You take out the MVP year that he had. G Single 54, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. Hey, chat. Have y'all heard about Twitch Prime? If you have Amazon Prime, you can link it to your Twitch account, and that gives you a free sub that you can use on this or any channel. It doesn't renew, so make sure that you use it on somebody every time. Twitch Prime. Feels strange, but starting one wide receiver one, Manny in cash this week. I'm all right with it. Like I said, I think it's a week that people are going to spend up at running back. So therefore, you're going to have to find value at wide receiver. Thanks, Dr. Lupo. Would White be a cash lock with no Burkhead or Michelle? Not a lock because of the weather. You want a snow cone. All right. Well, get a snow cone, man. What's stopping you? With Greg Olsen out, can I take that cheap Ian Thomas? I'm not taking... Probably not. I see what you're doing, though. Because his snap count should go through the roof. Switchblade, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. Somebody listens when I do the close-up cam. Definitely going to need some support groups this week. I hope not. Support groups are when one of the players that I wrote up in Best Buys, not the blurb guys, not the one fact bullet point guys. If one of those guys is failing badly and like this is a guy that I wanted a lot, then I'm probably going to do a support group and see if I can get some positive vibes around that guy. Maybe we can swing it in the second half of games. I'm not saying it works every time, but the historical accuracy of the support group has been shockingly good. Yeah, I'm all for no support groups. Let's just all have fun. No need for support groups. Nobody would like 3 points at halftime. Thoughts on using Gordon over Kamara, Gurley, and cash if you need a little savings? I'm fine with it. I mean, I'd be more comfortable if I get up to Kamara, Gurley, but like if you're saying moving to Gordon moves up one of those mid-range wide receivers to like Antonio Brown, Michael Thomas, Julio Jones, then yeah, I'm on board. Any reason I change it from GP? What? I don't get. They name it for me. I turn it into the editor, and they're the ones that put those things on there. I don't do that. Do I think wide receiver cornerback matchups are overrated in considering lineups? I do not. I like them. I use them. Bad Guy Jim getting involved with a Twitch Prime sub. A Wrinkle in Time. I look for the path of least resistance in everything that I do in life and daily fantasy, right? Like if you asked me 10 years ago and like what I was investing in, it was probably Apple, Amazon, just FANG stocks, Facebook, all those stocks. That's all I wanted. Why? Because they were the biggest, baddest companies on the planet that looked like they were going to grow, and they all went up 10 to 15x, right? So if you look at daily fantasy the same way, I want the path of least resistance. Give me the guy who's guarded by the worst dude, who's also getting a ton of snaps and projects to get a lot of volume his way to take advantage of this terrible matchup that he's got on the other side. That's everyone wants like, what's the secret sauce? Give me the way that you play DF. That's how I play. I target the three-legged wildebeest. That's it. You ever watch those National Geographic shows? Right? Where they got the lions of the Serengeti and they're out there on the prowl. They're hunting in the grass like a cat in the grass. And they see like a big herd of wildebeest in front of them. Do they go after the biggest, strongest wildebeest in the group? Or do they pick out the three-legged, sickly one in the back? I'm looking for the 3LW. I want the three-legged wildebeest in the back. And some days, that happens to be based on wide receiver cornerback matchups. It's a tool like any other. It's not a be-all, end-all, but it's a tool to work with. Enunwa Funches and Godwin as wide receivers to get up to the top three wide receiver or top three running backs. I think you can do that. Yes. 3LW emote needed. Not show me the lie. You're not wrong. Jimmy G and Jets D or Keenum and what? Keenum and Texans or Vikings D, assuming Rodgers out. The second one. If Rodgers is out, I like Keenum. Look at the Broncos team total. It's exceptionally high. And if we're expecting DT and we're expecting Sanders to do a lot this week, that means that Keenum's doing something as well. Maybe throwing 2 touchdowns for his 5,800 or whatever price that he is this week. And again, Vikings are the number one defense on the board if Aaron Rodgers is out. Chiefs secondary is the three-legged wildebeest every week. Not just this week. Every week, we're going to attack the Chiefs secondary. Pettis in a GPP. If Goodwin is out, yes. I'm on board with that. What about stacking Doyle Kittle to get more big names? I think that it's going to be viable in cash this week. It's not my favorite route to go in cash because the opportunity cost of taking away a running back. But if you want to build a GPP lineup where you like that pass catcher at tight end better than the pass catchers at wide receiver, and it allows you to maybe bump up one wide receiver to a stud, maybe get Antonio Brown and Michael Thomas or Antonio Brown and Julio Jones added to a lineup for tournaments, I think that that's a very viable tournament strategy this week. SF total is high. It is. It's true. What else we got, guys? Use 3LW. I've used 3LW for a while. I've used that on the edge before. I've definitely used that before for the last 6 years. All right, guys. I think that's going to do it for this week. Appreciate y'all being here. Thanks for showing up. On YouTube, if you're still watching this video, appreciate y'all being here. Hit that like button on this video. Let's see if we can get to like 600 likes on this video. Just an arbitrary number. And if you would be so kind, right here, we have a subscribe button. And right here, we got another video for you to watch. So please click this one first, and then click that one. And I'll see you on Sunday morning on the Anti-Tinkercast right here on Twitch. Bye, guys.